Georgia Constitutional Amendments. Learn more right after this.
Getting closer to nature can get you closer to your family. Go to discovertheforest.org.
Welcome to Community Watch. Greg,
Doc,
how are you?
I'm here.
Okay, well, I'm glad you're here.
We have a good show today.
I tell you, I don't know if you've had this experience. You know, you kind of focus on an election time. You focus on the candidates and the various races, and you can get it straight in your mind. And then you go in to vote, and there are some amendments on there that you might not even glanced at or were aware were coming your way.
Exactly.
Have you had that experience? I mean,
I have had that experience, and even more so, we focus on our candidates at the big level, but how many times we walk in there and people don't even know who's running locally? And so that's why I think shows like this are so important, because, you know, you're right, I've done that. I've actually looked at an amendment for the first time when I've been in the ballot box. Yeah.
And they can be misleading. I mean, the wording is sometimes legalese, and you know, it may not be something that's clear, certainly at first glance.
Especially for me. I mean, I'm quite sure for you it's not.
No. Because I'm looking, you know, we're looking at these amendments that are on the ballot this election, which is, you know, really soon. And I don't, you know, I'm struggling with a couple of them. But that's what we're talking about today. So we are going to be joined when we come back from this break by Melinda Strickland and Wendy Davis, who know everything about all of this. And so thank goodness. So stay with us. We're going to talk about the amendments right after this.
For a new pet that your family will cherish every day, consider adopting from a shelter. Shelters are the best places to find a new pet. That's where you'll discover healthy, loyal, and loving animals, eager to become a part of your family. A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet, so bring home your new buddy today. To find out more, visit theshelterpetproject.org.
Welcome back to Community Watch, and we're very happy to have with us Melinda Strickland and Wendy Davis. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And you are about to become Floyd County Board of Education. Is that right?
Yes, in January.
Okay.
And I'm very excited.
And Wendy, of course, you are our Rome City Commissioner.
But today I'm here as Citizen Wendy,
not
representing my colleagues. Political activist.
Political strategist.
Gal who knows a lot about political things, yes, but not on behalf of the commission.
Well, we have 4 amendments on the ballot, and we've had, there's been a great deal of talk about number 1. And I think we need to talk about that. But 2, 3, and 4 I know next to nothing about.
Yeah.
So we need to talk about them as well. And I know a lot of folks have already voted, because early voting has started already. But hopefully they knew what they were doing with those amendments and those. But I actually was waiting to vote because I knew we were doing these shows and I wanted to be clearer on some of this. All right, so maybe we should you want to just read, you have the exact wording there of
Yes. Proposed constitutional amendment number 1, provide greater flexibility and state accountability to fix failing schools through increasing community involvement. And it actually says, shall the Constitution of Georgia be amended to allow the state to intervene in chronically failing public schools in order to improve students' performance? Yes or no? Pretty straightforward.
Well,
I have to admit, when I read it like that, who wouldn't vote for that? I mean, just based on that wording.
I call it rainbows and puppy dogs
Okay.
and ice cream. Doesn't everybody want those?
Because just based on that, you would say, why wouldn't I want the state to intervene in a chronically failing school? But I know there's quite a bit of opposition to Amendment 1.
you know, let me ask this before you talk about this. There's the actual wording of the amendment, which I think is put in quote marks there. So that's how
It's
the
the-
amendment would
It's
read.
the shall the Constitution, that
Mhm.
part.
So then there's the little kind of interpretive sentence,
It's called a preamble.
preamble.
Yes.
Now, who writes that?
The Secretary of State writes that.
Okay.
And he did a doozy there, didn't he?
Well, I mean, it makes it sound like, you know, it says increasing community involvement, but really this is the opposite of that, isn't it?
One could say that. It's the opposite of that.
I mean,
would you like me to tell you what I
Please-
think
well,
is a more
yes.
honest and wording? Shall the Constitution of Georgia be amended to allow an appointee of the governor to take over local school operation, buildings, and control of all federal, state, and local funding if the school has low scores on standardized tests or for any other reason the future legislature shall allow?
All right, so this amendment would give the state the right to take over local schools as they see fit.
Well, a minute, let's be honest.
Right.
Maybe should we clear what they consider chronically failing schools?
Correct.
Right.
Yes, what they see as failing schools.
But the definition of that is not set,
Yeah,
right?
what is that? What is a
It's-
failing school?
Because they're basing it on a test that hasn't even been validated through our state. Our state testing at this time is not even validated. So how can they label a chronically failing school? It's according to what they see it to be. And you're talking about non-educators here. We're talking about people who are not in education to take over these schools.
But let me go back to the test though. But is it just a single test, or is it a set of data point matrices? I mean, what are they using? Do we know for sure what they're using, or do they know? Have they put out what they would be using?
It's the College and Career Readiness Performance Index, and that's made up largely of testing. Not all of testing, but largely testing. But they're basing it on the tests that have not been validated. So they're not, I mean, you
When you say validated by whom?
by our nationals testing. I mean, it's the, they're not validated enough to count on for our students to pass. You know,
Okay.
they've thrown out the tests to say they're invalid because they've not come up with a standard that is conducive for our schools, for our students.
They've changed that CCRPI, which has
Right.
been in development like 3 years, maybe
Right.
4 years. Each year they've changed what the criteria are as a part of that. Now, the proponents of this will tell you that it's very clear a school is only on the possible takeover list if they have scored a 60% or worse on the CCRPI for 3 years in a row.
Today.
But that's what they say it is today.
Today.
But if we amend the Constitution to create this new bureaucracy, the legislature can change what that criteria is. And they are frankly changing the CCRPI every year. And that's not supposition, that is happening.
Now, I got to be honest with you. I am an educator, and I'm torn because there are chronically failing schools throughout this state, and I hear a lot of educators talking about the takeover, but I don't hear a lot of people talking about the actual kids and schools that are chronically failing. Because we know some schools, it's horrible. I mean, you just look at the number of kids that start, the number of kids that graduate 13 years later. I mean, there's a lot of things we can look at. There are kids who are failing. And there are some schools that are not producing high quality educated kids. I don't know that this is the answer, but clearly we have been asleep at the wheel when we look at the number of kids that are actually graduating and the number of kids that are going into college that are really college ready. Because I believe the governor's office put out something out a couple of years ago that if all the kids who receive HOPE maintain HOPE eligibility after their first year, HOPE would be bankrupt. So clearly there's the answer, I think, is somewhere in the middle. But I think what gets lost in this is that a lot of times we're not talking about the actual kids, because I'm fortunate that my kid go to a public school, and it's a pretty high-performing public school. But I'm thinking about some of those parents who are in situations and in communities where some of these schools may exist, and they're stuck. And what is going to be done, even if this doesn't pass, I'm just afraid that those parents and those kids are going to be left.
And those fears are very valid. That's why a lot of people, frankly, in the legislature who are longtime friends of mine, who I was shocked supported it because I see it differently than they do. But their feeling is we have to try something new. My feeling is I agree we need to try some new things, but I don't think we should use a model. Other systems that have tried this and haven't shown success. I would like to start with the state fully funding the schools as they are required by their own legislation to do, which they haven't done in a dozen years now. Let's start there, and then let's give these local school districts the creativity and the flexibility to do these innovative things. If the governor has what I call a magic wand or a secret sauce that he or she, the superintendent they select for the so-called opportunity school district, if they have that magic, why not give it to all of our school districts? Right. Why will that magic only work in a hidden backroom select kind of way that is not accountable to the people? And there are people who are like, well, let's pick this school system. It's horrible. You know, I've heard people say we have horrible school systems. Well, it's the citizens' responsibility in that community to elect school board members who are going to make those changes. And that's one of the reasons y'all see me here all the time trying to get people to pay attention to good candidates for school board and good candidates for the city school board and the county school board.
No, I agree with what you're saying, but here's what my pushback would be, Wendy. I agree to citizens, but really when I look at this battle, this ain't the citizens. To me, this is like the governors and educators. I don't see it so much as parents. I don't think the parents are fully educated one way or the other. I think we're making attempts. But when I look at the biggest oppositions to this and I see the biggest fight, it looks like this is more between the governor's office and educators. And I am an educator. I'm just saying, if we went out right now and polled most parents, how many of them really know what it says?
Yeah, if you gave me 10 minutes to talk to them and then ask them how they were going to vote, it might be different.
But we could say the same thing if you gave the governor 10 minutes.
You could.
Yeah, but I'm saying, I'm just hoping, regardless how this goes, that we don't forget about the kids. And I think sometimes that get lost in the whole fight of control. But at the end, are our kids really, sometimes we can allow the adults, I know we say in education, sometimes the problem is not, it's the adults in the building, so to speak.
But can I also share, you have to understand though, if this passes like it's intended, nobody has a say. Parents in your communities do not have a say on anything to do with this, because if the superintendent or a assigned person comes in and they say we're going to shut the school down, there's no recourse. If he says it's shutting down, it's shutting down. No recourse, no voice, no vote.
Well, but I'm not fighting for it. But I hear that, and to me that sounds like the extreme on the spectrum, not the.
But that's in there.
They've laid out.
I know, but that's in there. But that's still, I think, would be the extreme. That's not every school now we're just gonna shut down. I'm just saying, I want to hear. I just don't like the fear tactics that I hear, and I'm not saying you two. But I've just heard a lot of fear tactics as an educator that I don't want to hear about the fear. I want to hear about what's in the best interest of kids.
Well, I'm telling you, there is nothing in the legislation that prescribes what the solution is, what that secret sauce is.
Yeah.
So it's well, we got to try something, why not this? Well, there are lots of why not thises out there that have better track records than following what they've done in Louisiana or following what they've done in Tennessee.
Or Michigan. And you know, Tennessee, did you know the study there in Tennessee that in 2010 there was no improvement in any of the schools that they took over, but yet the other schools that were lesser in the school system took over and saw great improvement with the student success.
I guess my thing is I want to see whether we like this or not, or whether you voted for it or not. I think my thing, what I like about this, it forces us to look at the school districts and our local school boards and say, why are some of our schools underperforming? Because if they're underperforming and you on the board, then it's happening on your watch. And not just the school board, but parents too. We have a responsibility. And I think this, if nothing else, at least created some dialogue around who's accountable for our children's education. And I think sometimes we kind of pass that off.
And let me say that we can do all that right now without changing our state constitution.
But is it happening?
But with it can happen.
I know it can.
And yes, I do see it happening. I do see it happening.
We got to take a break.
Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't get a question?
That's all right. But I can take us to a break. We will be back after this with a lot more discussion. Don't go away.
My college offers classes that meet my educational and career goals.
with opportunities outside of the classroom.
where the faculty know me by name.
My college can prepare me for my career.
I can earn an associate's degree and transfer credits to a bachelor's.
My college is a state college within the university system of Georgia.
My college offers courses that fit my schedule.
It's where excellence begins.
We are.
We are.
We are.
We are GHC. Georgia Highlands College.
Welcome back to Community Watch. We're having a conversation. Well, actually, Greg is having a conversation with Melinda Strickland of the Floyd County Board of Education, about to be.
Right.
And Wendy Davis, Rome City
activist
Commissioner.
strategist.
Activist strategist. And we're talking about the amendments that are on the ballot for this election. And we're still on number one.
Yeah. I think one is going to be huge. Honestly, I think I'm afraid. I'm going to be honest with you. I just think the wording is misleading. I'm going to be honest with you. I think when you read it, no one, if you're not educated or have any in-depth reading of it, just reading that for the first time when you walk in there, I think is very misleading. I'm going to be honest with you. I just think that's, somebody. You got an uphill battle with that one.
And can I add one more thing? Because one of my responsibilities as a board member is to protect the teachers and to take care of. This is not protecting our teachers, because an OSD superintendent can walk in at a school and if they deem it failing, say, see ya. And there's no recourse, no appeal, nothing. The teachers are fired.
Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm an educator. As an educator. Not that I agree with that, but I do think sometimes we have a process that sometimes makes it hard to let teachers go. And sometimes you got there's bad people in every profession.
Well, if somebody
But if
was
you do your
mad
job
at
right-
you, Greg, and just wanted to fire you, wouldn't you want to be in a situation where you had some recourse to say
Right.
Well, but
that there are
also-
grounds to fire
I
me?
also think if somebody wanted to fire me, I would think my work would speak for itself as well.
Right.
And I would think, I just don't think somebody could, I just have the belief if somebody came with a problem with a teacher, I would love to believe that whoever the governor would appoint, it's not some evil person out to get teachers. And so therefore, if there was a complaint that they would, it's called giving people the benefit of the doubt. I'm not going to, we just going to fire him. I just think I'm the type of person, if we want something, I want it because it's right, not because of what could possibly happen or the fear factor.
Well, you're awfully
Yeah.
trusting, and I think that's a beautiful thing
as an
about
African
you.
American in America,
Right.
you
But
have to be.
you also have to understand you don't know what governor's coming in. And
True.
you don't know what the next governor, and this is going into the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a 2-year, 3-year, 4-year. We're looking long-term here.
Yeah.
And my thing is, let the governor and the office give the educators money. We're trained. You're a trained professional.
But I don't know.
I'm a trained professional. Let us go in and help
But let's
save
be
these
honest.
schools.
Let's be honest, though. I don't know. Okay, this hasn't been passed yet. I don't know that we really include teachers that much now. I'm going to be honest with you. There's a lot of decisions that's made about testing and everything else that I don't know that teachers really have input now.
Or educators.
Or educators,
Administrators and
Yeah.
other. You don't think so?
No. Well, administration may be, but I don't know that it's happening at the teacher level,
Right.
honestly.
So,
understand.
so the question is, though, Shall we let an unelected person be the sole arbiter of all these decisions? And I think it's interesting that it crosses party lines. Melinda's a Republican, obviously I'm a Democrat, and it crosses racial lines, it crosses ethnic lines, it crosses rural and urban lines. There are people on both sides of this of goodwill. I don't think the governor is ill-intentioned.
No.
I think he wants to be successful. I think that's why a lot of my friends in the legislature voted for it, because they want it to be successful. But in my mind, we don't have to amend the Constitution, create another layer of bureaucracy, bypass entirely our state school superintendent who's elected by the people and that whole bureaucracy, bypass our local school boards who are elected by the people, and just say, y'all aren't doing it, so we're just going to pick one guy or one gal and they're going to fix it all. I don't have that much faith.
Well, I don't have that much faith either, but I'm just saying, looking at it at its face value, it's just that there's a lot of failing schools. And and you can use whatever matrices we want. We know there's a lot of failing schools. And the school board and the citizens have that power now. And a lot of them just haven't done a great job. And that's the honest truth about it. See, if we're going to be honest, let's just be honest.
Right.
I don't know that this is the answer, but I know as an educator there's a lot of failing schools.
Do we know how many there are?
Failing schools?
Well,
I think that's
by these criteria.
There are 127 on this list. I believe I'm right on that number. And there are 3 schools in our community that are on the cusp of being added to that list. This new district, should it be created by amending the Constitution to allow it to be created, can take in up to 10 schools, up to 20 schools a year, up to 100 schools.
And keep you on 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, and again, it is not clear what their method is. It is very clear, it is spelled out that they can go in and fire everyone in the building. They can go in and reorganize it however they like. They can transfer it to a for-profit company to run. They can close the school entirely. Those things are clear, but how they would improve student performance, as it suggests it will do in the amendment that we're asked to vote on, is not clear in any of that.
Nothing's spelled out at all about that. And the important thing too is, though, if they do come in and take over, and you don't like scare tactics, but if they come in and take over and close the school down, the system is still responsible for the facilities and the taxes on that school system. On that school. So that's something else to keep in mind, that it's up to the community, but yet we still have no voice.
Yeah, I just think it's kind of ironic that, particularly, we always hear states' rights and big government from usually the right, but this is a right state right now. This is the right side of the state. The House, the governor, all on the Republicans, but yet no one. I just think it's odd we don't hear this. The government is big government now, because this is a form of big government.
That's why we're using the language takeover.
But we don't hear that argument being made. But I don't know that this is the answer. But I'm glad for the simple fact that I do think it has forced conversations about why are these schools on that list? What do we do? What are we doing? Because when you work with kids day in and day out, and a lot of us know within education, you can look at some schools, particularly elementary schools, and those kids do not have the same opportunities as other kids in the same district, in the same system. And to me, that's criminal. And so, if nothing else, I think it's least, I'm hoping that it's going to create more conversation. I don't think it's going to pass, but I hope that.
Well, if enough people don't talk about it in advance, it will pass, because the wording is very misleading. It's butterflies and rainbows and puppy dogs and ice cream and
grandma's apple pie.
Grandma's apple pie, yeah.
You got a question, Doc? I'm sorry.
Well, my main question is, should we talk about the others, since we?
I'm sorry.
No. We knew we would.
Yeah, but I just know this one is huge, and I think the ramifications, are huge. I mean, a takeover is. Financially, there's a lot of things involved in that, but
I don't know if we have the answer to the question. The question I would have is, are these schools on this list also from the poorest?
Yes. Yes, they are.
And the 3 that are on the cusp in our area, are they the poorest?
Yes.
So why don't we deal with that?
Right. We could deal with that.
Why don't the government put money into helping the communities and let us educators deal with the schools?
Because the poverty is a huge part of the failing, and nothing I have seen in the legislation around this constitutional amendment is addressing any of those outside the classroom factors that are a huge element of the problems facing
I'm gonna be
these
honest with you.
students.
I don't have faith in the governor, but I don't have faith that I think those problems are not new. A lot of these schools are not
Right.
new. And so if they haven't fixed
Right.
it now, I don't know if I have faith they'll fix it if it doesn't pass. I'm just gonna be honest.
Well, we have about 3 minutes to discuss the other 3 amendments.
Oh my goodness. Well, you can't even read them all in 3 minutes.
No.
So let me
So-
just may I throw in this?
Throw.
First of all 4 of these are asking you to amend the Constitution of the state of Georgia. I contend that the problems that are being addressed by all 4 of these could be solved with legislation and with action at the state level and action at the local level. We don't need to necessarily amend our Constitution. Their amendments 2 and 4 seem less controversial, right?
But I know number 3 is huge.
But
as
number
well.
3 is taking what is now an independent body, the Judicial Qualifications Commission, which is the body that basically polices judges, and changing, basically abolishing it as it exists as an independent body and creating it anew with the legislature controlling who is on that body, taking power away from the state bar and giving it to the legislature. If folks are familiar with NPR's program, This American Life, over the weekend they did a really complex and comprehensive look at it. So
Now,
I would
wouldn't they
point
replace
people
it
there.
with like a 3? I'm kind of confused. I know they would replace it, but the lieutenant governor would get to choose somebody. I thought it was the governor.
So I believe right now the state bar has 4 appointees to it, and they want the state bar to have no appointees to it, and the governor and the legislature
would
choose the appointees. And frankly, the genesis of this energy to change it seems to be coming from someone who was a judge before, who resigned as a judge because this board came after him, and some personalities involved. And well, I don't like the guy who was on the JQC. And to me, that's pettiness that is not of the level to change our Constitution and not of the level to take the independence away from the only body that's looking at our judges' behavior.
Well, I would say, just for our viewers out there, I mean, the best thing you can do, it is a lot of information online and on the web. Really go and read as much as you possibly can, because, I mean, to go into the ballot box without having any knowledge of this beforehand really this is serious. These are just not these are not just simple amendments. These are some serious with financial repercussions.
Right. And again, the League of Women Voters has some nice information on it, and they're nonpartisan and sort of just good government folks looking at the issues.
That's an easily Googleable site.
I mean,
Googleable.
Yes, you can just go into any of your search engines and type 2016 Georgia ballot questions or Georgia constitutional amendments, and probably have more information than you can sort through.
All right, we are coming up on another break. Do not go away. We'll be right back.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds.
Welcome back to Community Watch, where we haven't stopped talking about the 4 amendments on the ballot. I want to thank Melinda Strickland for being here and Wendy Davis. I appreciate y'all helping to explain some of the issues behind these, but really what it comes down to is voters need to research. They, don't go into the ballot box without having thought about these and gotten some information about them, because they're complex.
And we have 5 competitive local races too.
Oh, of course.
Here in Floyd County.
Thank you all for being with us this week on Community Watch. We'll see you next time. Bye now.